The Henry Kissinger Distinguished Professor at the Johns Hopkins University School of Advanced International Studies, as well as being a columnist for Bloomberg Opinion, Hal Brands. His new book is titled The Eurasian Century, Hot Wars, Cold Wars, and the Making of the Modern World. Hal, good to see you. Danielle just well detailed the distrust that the families of these hostages have for the Netanyahu government. These deals have been close before and have fallen apart. This does seem to be the closest yet, and we heard the reassuring words from Admiral Kirby a few moments ago. But give us your assessment of the lay of the land and walk us through the pockets of resistance that Netanyahu is facing within his own coalition. Can he get by them?
For a number of months, the big challenge politically in Israel was that Netanyahu would perhaps lose the support of the farthest right members of his own coalition if he were to go for a hostage deal. That danger has receded more recently because he has brought another party into his government that gives him a little bit more margin for error. And the other thing that this hostage deal does, which is critical in an Israeli political context, is it punts on the issue of whether this is an end of the war or simply a timeout while Israel gets back as many hostages as it can. And the Israeli government has left itself the option of renewing the war after the first phase of this ceasefire is complete, if it cannot get satisfaction on the release of the remainder of the hostages and other critical issues.
So, Hal, let's talk about the historic nature of what happened on the American side with an outgoing president and an incoming president, different parties who really don't like each other on a personal level, working together, and more importantly, their people working together to bring this deal in to a landing. Do you think, despite the reservations and concerns from the most extreme members of Netanyahu's right-wing coalition, that this deal will get done at the end of the day, in part because of Donald Trump's popularity in Israel?
I think it will get done. I think it's still the Middle East, and so no deal is final until it's final, and sometimes it's not done even at that point. But I do expect that the deal will ultimately get done because both parties are pretty well incentivized to do it. It's been interesting on the American side, where we've basically had two presidents negotiating this deal. So you've had the Biden administration involved, but then President Trump and his representatives have been involved as well. And the interesting thing here is that Trump has actually been pushing for this deal to get done on Biden's watch, which is unusual. We all remember the end of the Iran hostage crisis when the hostages weren't released until just after Ronald Reagan had taken the oath of office. But I think what Trump has calculated is that he doesn't want the Gaza issue swallowing his presidency in the way that it swallowed the last year of Joe Biden's presidency. And so he simply wants to get it off the table so that he can move on to other priorities in the region and beyond.
So, Hal, in a moment, we're going to be diving into the hearings yesterday of Secretary of State nominee Senator Rubio. But give us your assessment of some of the challenges he faces in your expertise, Eurasia there. Obviously, the war in Ukraine still rages, even as there's some suggestion that this year, 2025, might be the year where both sides are willing to get to the negotiating table.
From a U.S. policy perspective, if you get a ceasefire in Gaza, it's really out of the frying pan and into the fire. You're just moving into the next phase of a Middle Eastern crisis, which will revolve primarily around the Iranian nuclear program and the Trump administration's efforts to come to grips with that. But the really challenging issue, I think, is going to be Ukraine, where Trump initially promised to end that war within 24 hours. Now he said, give me 6 months. And I think the basic challenge, the basic dynamic there is that Ukraine is losing the war. It's losing slowly, but it is losing. And so the U.S. and Ukraine and their friends are going to have to find a way of putting more pressure on Russia simply to get to a point where a ceasefire might be feasible.
All right, important conversation we'll be continuing to have. The new book, The Eurasian Century, Hot Wars, Cold Wars, and the Making of the Modern World, is indeed on sale now. Author Hal Brands. Hal, thank you for joining us this morning.